Over the next few weeks, we will be having a continuous reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, where he brings to us and preaches to us in parables to reveal the hidden mysteries of the kingdom of God. Now, many of these parables we've heard, and they are familiar to us, and so there's nothing new under the sun here. However, as our situation in life changes, as our seasons of life change, these parables, because they transcend any sort of space and time, they really do speak to us in different ways, wherever we might be in our situation or season of life. They are always fresh, they are always new to us, and so we can always hear them with renewed ears and listen to them in a way that provokes thought and provokes our heart to change. And while the parables, they have this way of being ever new, as civilizations come and go, these parables are always something relevant to us, something that speaks to the heart. We can also ask the question, as the disciples do, why do you speak to them in parables? Why is he not speaking plainly about these hidden mysteries? It's not like it's outside of his preaching protocol. He does so in many different other places. He's very plain and clear when he gives the bread of life discourse in the Gospel of John. There's no parable. There's no move for interpretation here. It is very clear in what he is saying about who he is and what he has come to do and what the Eucharist is for us. So why parables? Why parables to us to reveal the hidden mysteries of God's kingdom? Well, Jesus answers that question in distinguishing between the crowds and the disciples. The disciples, those who have intentionally began to follow him, are able to hear with open ears plainly what the kingdom of heaven, what the kingdom of God is. But to the crowds, he speaks to them in parables to encourage a decision, a conversion of heart. By nature, parables demand a movement and an effort of interpretation. They challenge us. They challenge our minds, and they challenge our freedom. Effectively, his answer becomes an autobiography of who Jesus is. The parables reveal that. And essentially, where he is, there is the kingdom. And so as he preaches to them in parables, he is drawing them closer through his humanity. And as we come closer to him, our eyes are opened and his divinity is revealed to us. His true nature as both God and man. And this is the move that God does for us. He just doesn't blammo and give us a revelation of who he is, because that would destroy us. He comes in such a gentle and loving way, in truth and goodness. He reveals himself in love, attracting us to him. And we have the choice in freedom to move closer to him or not. The nature of love being that it can never be forced. And this is how God works. Now, from this perspective, we can look at the parable of the sower and the seed and say that Jesus is both. He is both the one who proclaims the word, sows the seed, but he is also the word itself, the word made flesh who dwelt amongst us. And as we hear these various ways in which the seed is sown on soil, that is us and our receptivity of that word, there's a point where our hearts may be convicted. Our hearts might be challenged. And that's because maybe God is poking at our conscience. He's poking at us to draw forth a little bit more for our conversion of life and our conversion of our heart. With the seed that falls on the path, there we have the person who does not understand the fullness and the richness of who God is, that his presence is with us. They don't go any further than what is superficial about the faith, and they just go along with their life, their way, not God's way. And by not going deeper into their faith, by not wanting to learn more about the church and what it teaches, what ends up happening is the heart becomes hardened. And the evil one comes and snatches that away. Remember, we don't live in neutral territory. There are two dominions playing themselves out in our life, the spiritual battle. We're either for God or we're against God. And if we don't move towards God, then the evil one's going to drag us down with him. With the seed that falls on rocky soil, here we have the person who has had a conversion of life, maybe at a retreat or some event, and they're just filled with joy about the faith. They're on that mountaintop experience. But you have to come down from the mountaintop at some point. And as you come down, you enter into the reality of life. And that reality is filled with suffering and struggle. And it's not easy to live the faith in a hostile world. And so, they just kind of let it fade to the background. They run away from it, and they don't look back. They go about their life as if nothing changed. And there, no fruit can be born. The seed cannot take root, and it just gets scorched. Then we have the person where the seed falls on thorny ground. And here, the person might have many distractions of life. You know, they've received God's love, but they've also received love from many other places. The various idols of one's life, whether that be power, pleasure, honor, glory, whatever it might come forth, some ideology, well, it's going to get choked out. The world is much louder than how God speaks. God speaks in silence. The world is going to speak very loudly. And if we're not concentrated on him, if we don't cast those idols to the foot of the cross, it's going to get choked out. It's going to get drowned out. And we're just going to go with the way of the world. But then we have the seed that falls on good soil. Here is the one who receives God's love, repents, and believes. And this is an ongoing pattern in their life. But they are trending upwards. They are trending towards God. They are striving for that relationship with him in order to live in that relationship and to grow in holiness. Not being satisfied with mediocrity, but wanting to grow, constantly knowing their sins, repenting, believing again, being strengthened in faith, and then being led on by hope and the love that they have received. And they lead on into the world, showing witness to what they have received. And their fruit is born not only in the soul of the person who's received God's love, but also in those who come to know them. Because as fruit is born in one's life, no longer I who live, but Christ who lives within me becomes known. This is St. Paul. This is the saints of our generations. Whether it be St. Francis, St. Dominic, St. Catherine of Siena, St. Teresa of Avila. All of them had some way or another changed their situation and changed the world that was around them. Influencers in such a beautiful way that allowed their soul to reveal God, but also for the world to know that God is real and present amongst us. Where are you? Where is your heart? What type of soil are you right now? Don't be satisfied where you're at. Continue to grow in God's love. Continue to receive that love. And in today's gospel, he makes that known. To not settle for that. St. Paul knows that. As we struggle through this time, yeah, it's a struggle, but the benefit is adoption to sonship, to reveal Christ, the freedom of the glory of the children of God. And that nothing can compare to. And so as we continue on in our summertime, it's an opportunity for us to just allow these parables to know that God is calling us closer to him, to receive his love, and so for us to be transformed and then to transform the world around us.